this lady, Rosamond Brown, put up a post on social media on her son's birthday, and she appeared naked before her son, who was also partially naked. She was arrested by the police and taken through police processes. Let's go on to the document and see the process of how the arrest occurred. So we are now going to look at the Criminal Offences Act. Now in Ghana, we have two fundamental laws that govern our criminal process. The Criminal Offences Act, Act 29, and the Criminal Procedure Act, Act 30. Both of them incidentally passed on the same day in 1960. Criminal Offences Act highlights all the offenses, highlights all the behaviors that are determined to be offenses in Ghana. And so it is in a book. When we were younger, we used to call it the Criminal Code. Now they call it the Criminal Offences Act. It's been amended so many times. So we changed the law, we removed some. For instance, for those of us interested in politics and media, the criminal libel law was removed from it. Some laws have been added, etc., etc. Parliament has also passed some other criminal processes like the cybersecurity that we'll get to tonight because it's relevant for our conversation. So that we are relying tonight on the Criminal Offences Act, Act 29, and the Criminal Procedure Act, Act 30. So the offense and the procedure. So the offense says that stealing, defines stealing. And then Act 30 will tell you by what procedure that you come to the conclusion that an accused person has stolen or not. So that's what we're going to do. Let's look at the first slide. The first slide is drawn from Section 280 of Act 29. And it reads, as you can see, it has to do with the publication or sale of obscene material. So it says a person who publishes or offers for sale an obscene book, writing, or representation commits a misdemeanor. So a person who publishes an obscene book, an obscene writing, or a presentation commits a misdemeanor. So what Akuapem Poloo was accused of is that she had published, and Instagram is the platform for this publication. Before we didn't have Instagram, so you had to be in a newspaper or in a book, but now we have Instagram. So Instagram is a platform for publication. She had published an obscene representation, and therefore, if she's found guilty of that, she would have been said to have committed a misdemeanor. So this is Act 280 of Section 280 of Act 29, Criminal Offences Act 1960, as amended. This is what is there. A person who publishes or offers for sale an obscene book, writing, or representation commits a misdemeanor. Let's go on and see what's next. In the next one, you will see what we call the general rules for the punishment. General rules for punishing somebody who commits a misdemeanor. And it's there. Let's read it. It says, where a criminal offense, which is not an offense mentioned in subsection 5, is declared by an enactment to be a misdemeanor, like what Akuapem Poloo did, and the punishment for that offense is not specified, a person convicted of that offense is liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years. Okay, so the important things for us in here is that where a person is convicted of a misdemeanor, that person is going to face a punishment not exceeding 3 years in prison. So that's why there's a bit of uproar tonight, and there's a bit of pleading for Poloo. Later on, we'll take you through the criminal process from the arrest to the committal procedure to the police inquiry, what happens in each of these stages, and then we can all understand. But this is where we are now. So Poloo was arrested and was investigated for an offense contrary to Section 280 of Act 29, which is publishing obscene material. It was determined that that could be a misdemeanor, and we are showing you here that where a person is convicted of a misdemeanor, that person is going to prison for up to 3 years. It could be from 1 day to 3 years. But could the person also be pardoned? Yes, the person can be pardoned, and many people were worried that she says sorry, etc. And that's why we played in our teaser what Akuapem Poloo said. Okay, we will take the teaser again, what she said. So this is where we are. Akuapem Poloo, obscene material published through Instagram. She is arrested and prepared for a charge of misdemeanor. If the misdemeanor is found, she would go to prison for up to 3 years. At this stage, she rendered some apology on the same Instagram. Let's go and see the apology again. It's not long, just a minute. This is what she said. Let's have a look at it.
I've not been myself, and the sadness is really eating me up. After I posted a naked picture in front of my son talking to him on his birthday. All that I want to say is please forgive me. It will never happen again. Even though I didn't post it for any bad intention. It was out of pains that I went through when I gave birth to my son. I realized that the post was not good, so I took it off. Looking at the insults and the captions I'm seeing on my page, I've regretted posting it. I just want to say a big sorry to whoever I hurt by posting that picture, and want to say that it's not for bad intention. And even if not for my sake, the sake of my son. Chief, come. What will you tell Ghanaians?
Ghanaians, please forgive my mom. She's a good person.
Oh, please, I beg you, my son. I love him so much. He said, forgive me, please. I beg you, forgive me. It will never happen again. It will never happen again. Thank you.
Okay, so this is what she did after the trial had begun. Awareness was brought to her that what you did constitutes an offense. Maybe she submitted to Instagram pressure. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she was ignorant. Maybe she was just plain simple, quote unquote, foolish. But this is what happened, and that's the apology that she rendered to people on the same platform. Now, let's take the criminal process. We'll come back to the plea, but let's understand the process. So the process is this. Either the police arrest or you are reported by the police by another person, and then you get into a criminal process. So the criminal process and the civil process are different. The civil process is Paul Adomotri versus Kofi Minta fighting over land. The criminal process is that an individual has done something that's in the conceptualization of the society, he has offended everyone. That is why the taxpayers' money is used to prosecute criminal offenses. The philosophy underpinning criminal offenses is that that particular act committed against an individual, it's offending the sensibilities of the society so that it is deemed to have been committed against every person in the society. Therefore, the prosecution of that individual, the accused person, is by every person in the society. That's why they say the Republic versus Kofi Edu. The Republic of Ghana versus Kofi Edu. So now, however, those offenses that are deemed to be offensive to the sensibilities of the society and that are deemed to have been committed by an individual against all of us at the same time, those offenses must be detailed, they must be known, they must be predictable. So we know that stealing, armed robbery. So if a person commits an armed robbery offense or alleged to have committed an armed robbery offense, that offense is deemed to have been committed against the whole Ghana. That is why it finds its way into the criminal procedure, the criminal code. So the criminal code outlines in a list, number 1, number 2, number 3, section 280, section 5, all the things that when done is deemed to have been done against all of us. So the police will prosecute. It's not an individual versus an individual. The other offenses, what we call the civil offenses, when you have committed it, you are deemed to have committed it against that individual. So it's a matter between you and him. You go to court and you deal with it. But when you commit a criminal offense, it is deemed to have been committed against everyone. So in this case, you are either arrested or you are reported to the police. So when you're reported to the police come into the matter and then they conduct what they call the police inquiry of the matter. So sometimes they arrest people and they don't grant them bail. They keep them at the police station whilst they are conducting the police inquiry. When your lawyer comes in, your lawyer will ask for a police inquiry bail because at that time you're not yet in court. It is a police inquiry bail that you're looking for. So the police conduct an inquiry. When they finish conducting the inquiry, they begin a committal proceedings. That is to commit the person to a trial, a criminal trial, because the police have satisfied themselves that all the ingredients of the offense that they are alleging against you have been committed. And so from that stage, you are called the accused person. So Rosemont Brown is called the accused person. And then they take you, the committal proceedings start. At that stage, they ask you for a plea. They ask you, this offense that has been formulated against you in what they call a charge sheet, this offense that has been formulated against you, are you guilty or not guilty? So if you say you are guilty, that's the end of the matter. The trial doesn't happen anymore. If you say you are not guilty, then you are challenging the police, and so the trial proceeds. The trial simply means we are now going to hear the matter. What did he do? What did he do? Your lawyer speaks, they speak. That's the trial. That's when you say you are not guilty. That's why you hear a lot of people plead not guilty. If you plead guilty, you have triggered the conviction. So automatically, if you plead guilty, you will be convicted of it. that doesn't mean you're going to prison. What takes you to prison is a sentencing. So where Akuapem Poloo now is that she has been convicted of the offense. She has not yet been sentenced. The sentencing will come tomorrow. What goes into the sentencing? We'll come to that. Now, after if there's a trial, after the trial, the court will invite what they call a plea for mitigation from the lawyers. So after the trial, and the court says that the conviction is in, you have been convicted, the judge will read and say that you have been convicted. And he will invite a plea of mitigation from the lawyers. The lawyer for the accused person will usually plead for mitigation in the sentence. The mitigation is not about the conviction. The mitigation is in the sentence. The conviction, the decision for the conviction is taken. It's a technical decision based on the evidence or based on a guilty plea, like Akuapem Poloo. Okay, so the lawyers will now say that, okay, the person is a first-time offender, like Akuapem Poloo. She has a child she has to look after. She's in an industry. She's working. She's contributing to the development of Ghana. If you keep her in prison for this offense, that she's a first-time offender for which she's very sorry, and nobody has died in the offense. Nobody has been particularly hurt, and everybody has forgiven her. If you put her into prison, we don't gain anything. Leave her. Maybe let her pay some money, commit her to some social work on the street, or in the case of Akuapem Poloo, you can convict her for to become an ambassador to help people obey the criminal code in that regard, because she's a public person, she's a filmmaker or a film star or something like that. So you can apply her for those purposes. So that's what the lawyer will say upon the announcement of a conviction in the court. Okay. And so upon the plea for mitigation, the judge will now read the sentence. Okay. So where Akuapem Poloo now is that she has pleaded guilty. Once she has pleaded guilty, automatically it means that she's been convicted of the crime. But there's one thing I left out. There's something called plea bargaining. So plea bargaining is the point where the person is invited to plead guilty or not guilty. And the police and the prosecution, the prosecution is the police. The prosecution and the defense lawyers can have a conversation and decide that for all the information that's available to us, and with all the circumstances of the matter, we think that it's better for her to plead guilty so that we will deal with it during the sentencing. That's plea bargaining. That is not announced to the general public. So we don't know whether there's been plea bargaining on this one or not. Some lawyers I spoke to today are suspecting that there may have been, but we really don't know. Nobody knows what has happened. Plea bargaining is not something that comes to the general public. So, but when you see people plead guilty, sometimes it is as a result of plea bargaining. We don't know about this one, what happened. So that's plea bargaining, where they say, okay, you plead guilty. You plead guilty. It means that you have not wasted the Republic's time. Because going through the trial, you're wasting the Republic's time because the police are going to be paid. They're going to come to the court every day. They are going to ask people to come in. They're going to ask experts to come in, photography experts, all of that. We're going to pay all of them. When they call an expert to court, they pay him. So the state is going to incur a certain bit of cost if there is a trial. So if you have agreed that you have committed the offense and you avoid the trial, you get plea bargaining, and then it might reflect in the sentence. So let's go on and see where we are. So this is the process. Let's understand the guilty plea now, the point I was making. Okay, where an accused is arraigned on an indictment for an offense and can lawfully be convicted on the indictment of another offense not charged in the indictment, the accused person may plead not guilty of the offense charged in the indictment, but guilty of other offenses. No, we don't need this one. Let's take this one off. Okay. On the plea of guilty, the court may, with the consent of the prosecution, acquit the accused person of the offense with which the accused person is charged and record the plea of guilty to the other offense. Okay, no problem. This one is also too legal. Now, this is important for people to understand. What's on the screen now? It's important for people to understand the plea of guilty and not guilty, and why people plead guilty even where we think that they've committed a crime. Because when the law says you have committed a crime, it identifies two elements of the crime. It identifies the mental element and the physical element. So maybe you have killed somebody. Maybe you were driving and you ran into somebody. Maybe you were turning around the corner with your new VW, and then you hit the orange seller and all the oranges fell down and poured and all of that. Maybe all that happened. So that happened. When they go to court, your lawyer says plead not guilty. People sometimes get upset. that lawyers are liars, and you know that the person killed the person, and then you said that he should plead not guilty and all of that. Now, the reason why you can reasonably plead not guilty is because of the first one on the screen, mens rea. Mens rea means to have a guilty mind. The rationale behind the rule is that it is wrong for society to punish those who innocently cause harm. So you see, you can cause harm, but you can do it innocently. So you can run into somebody when you are driving, but you have done it innocently. When you do that, you are not guilty of killing the person or injuring the person. You are not guilty of it because mens rea was not available. The next one is actus reus. It literally means a guilty act and generally refers to an overt act in furtherance of a crime. So you think of something and then you commit it. So until these two elements are present in a crime, you cannot call it a crime. So when we see people plead not guilty, they line up some people in court and they say that you have killed this person, not guilty, and everybody says, oh, they are hooting at the person. The reason why the lawyers say not guilty is because they have heard the story and they can see that there was no intention to do what they did. As you can see, the definition says innocently causing harm. So that's very, very important. We wanted to establish that before we come back to Akuapem Poloo. So now, let's come back and understand the sentencing. Finally, we're on the final leg of it. What is the sentencing? Okay. So sentencing is on Friday for our dear friend. And I'm sure that she's pleaded guilty, so she's been convicted, now she's going to be sentenced. So the judge may come to court tomorrow and say as follows. She may say, we don't know what she'll say. She may say, or is it a he? I think it's a she. She may say that, okay, sentencing is here. So they'll say, court rise, and Justice Opokua has sat down, and okay, then she may start and say, okay, here we go. Sentencing for Rosemond Brown in the case of the Republic versus Rosemond Brown. The court has taken notice that Rosemond Brown pleaded guilty in the offense. The court has taken notice that Rosemond Brown is a famous actress in Ghana. The court has taken notice that she has expressed a public remorse for her action. The court has taken notice that she has a 7-year-old child and that she's a single mother. The court has taken notice that she's an entrepreneur and she conducts 5, 6, 7 businesses around the country. The court has taken notice that Rosemond Brown is otherwise a good citizen and she is blah, 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 blah. For this and everything, this court hereby pardons Rosemond Brown, or this court commits Rosemond Brown to 2 years imprisonment in a suspended sentence. That's very likely to happen. That could happen. It's not very likely. It could happen tomorrow. So let's keep calm and wait for what the court will do. So the point we're making is that a conviction should not bring the court into disrepute and should not bring everyone tongue lashing the court. A conviction is automatically triggered by a guilty plea. That's what happened. She pleaded guilty. It triggers a conviction. So she's been convicted. It doesn't mean she's going to prison. It's during the sentencing tomorrow that we will hear. And what I just demonstrated could well be the sentencing for Rosemond Brown. We wish her very well, very, very well tomorrow. But let us understand these things. The Cybersecurity Act is very important. Just maybe, the judge who do the sentencing may be watching. Just maybe.